Okay, we're going to start today with Masechta Rosh Hashana, the fourth parak. I'd like to thank Nisan for the Gemaras. Very nice of you. Okay, the fourth parak, very interesting. It's very connected, very similar to what we were learning about in Sukkah, in the last parak of Sukkah. So there'll be a lot of familiarity. And we're opening up a Yom Tov Shel Rosh Hashanah Shechalios b'Shabbat. When the Yom Tov of Rosh Hashanah that comes down on Shabbat. So now what do we do when Rosh Hashanah comes down on Shabbat? Now what's the issue? The issue is, are you allowed to blow the shofar or not on Yom Tov that comes out on Shabbat? Now, of course, you would say, on a Torah level, you would say that what's the issue? What's the issue of blowing the shofar? There's a special pasuk in the Torah that says that you could do a brit on Shabbat. Not only you could do a brit, that you're obligated to do a brit. There's a mitzvah that Brit Milah comes down on Shabbat. You might have thought that since Shabbat, since doing a brit, causing that wound, causing the chavala, chabura is one of the 39 malachot on Shabbat. You might have thought that that would be forbidden. So therefore, you need the pasuk to tell us that you're allowed to go ahead and do brit on Shabbat, right? You might have thought it's a desecration of Shabbat, but why do you need but Rosh Hashanah blowing the shofar? What's the issue that you have to tell us that you're allowed to blow? And even you're allowed to blow, only certain places you're allowed to blow. So we'll see the Gemara is going to discuss what the issues are. Okay, so the Mishnah states, Yom Tov Rosh Hashanah Shechalios b'Shabbat b'Mikdash hayitokin. In the Mikdash, in the Beit HaMikdash, when the Beit HaMikdash was standing, they would blow the shofar on Yom Tov that came out on Shabbat. But of a low Medina, but they did not. Now it says not in the Medina, not in the country. What do you say? The rest of the country. Now the question is, what does it mean by Mikdash? Does the Mikdash mean specifically the Beit HaMikdash? Is that what the Mishnah means? But Lo Medina, but any place outside the Mikdash would mean it's excluding Yerushalayim, and it's excluding for sure the rest of Israel and the rest of the world. And that's how Rashi learns of Lo Medina. Rashi said Lo Medina. Rashi says Lo Yerushalayim v'Lo B'Gvulim. Not in Yerushalayim and not outside Yerushalayim. However, morning, good to see you, Ralph. However, the Rambam understands, there are those that understand that you would be allowed to blow in, when it says Yerushalayim, it says Mikdash, that they blew the shofar, Ralph. When Yom Tov Rosh Hashanah comes down on Shabbat, so let's say Rosh Hashanah, let's say this Shabbat, it would be Rosh Hashanah. So it says in the Mikdash, they would blow the shofar. So the question is, what is included in the Mikdash? We're going to see that others, the Rambam holds, Mikdash means it includes Yerushalayim. That you're allowed to also blow in Yerushalayim, except not in the outside Yerushalayim. So we're going to see a little bit more about these two opinions as we go along in the Mishnah. Yes. Everywhere on the first day, they took the sukkah, the lulav, the time of the Mikdash when it came out on Shabbat. So we have to see if it's the same. Might be the same machloket, the Rambam and Rashi. regarding the lulav in the mikdash. It's a special mitzvah in the Torah to take the lulav 7 days by the mikdash. Outside the mikdash, the mitzvah is 1 day, but the mikdash is 7 days. I think the Rambam, with double check, will also say that's including Yerushalayim, not just the Beit HaMikdash area, and others will say, Rashi say just in Yerushalayim, just by the mikdash. Yeah, so we're waiting for the last page, Ralph. Waiting for the siyum, and we're going to make a siyum. Then the Mishnah states, Ralph, we are on 29b, and the English is 29b2. And Mishachara Beit HaMikdash, when the Beit HaMikdash was destroyed, and here we are right after Tisha B'Av, and we're discussing when the Beit HaMikdash was destroyed, which is really exactly, we're on the 10th day of Av, as you know. The reason why there are certain halachot that apply to the 10th day of Av. For the Ashkenazim, they wait till 1 o'clock for chatzot to take haircuts, and showers, and laundry, and fresh new clothing. They wait till 1 o'clock, and meat and wine. The Sfardim, it seems that they hold everything starts permitted after the fast. They could take the haircuts last night, the showers last night, the laundry last night, except there's one thing that they do more than the Ashkenazim. It seems that they have a custom that they wait for meat and wine the whole day. That means they don't have meat and wine even after 1 o'clock today. They wait till the evening. That's the Sephardic custom. Many communities in the Sephardic community. And the reason for that is because since the Beit HaMikdash burned the whole day today, it started burning late yesterday afternoon, late on Tisha B'Av. And they continue burning the whole 10th. So to recognize that, they have certain halachot that apply. You should know that there were rabbis in Yerushalmi, there were rabbis that actually fasted both days, the 9th and the 10th. That's too much. Then there were rabbis that just fasted the 9th and the last night. And then today, nobody does that. Two people don't have that strength. So we don't do that. But just I think to know that was done gives us an appreciation of recognize this day. Today is not a happy day, so to speak. On the other hand, we have to we have to figure out how to make the best of it. And that's the story. So B'Shachara Beit HaMikdash, his kin Rabbi Yochanan Zakkai. Yochanan Zakkai made an enactment. He made a number of enactments. And one of his enactments, and we learned about that in Sukkah, certain enactments that he made. We learned, if you remember, by Chadash, we spoke about when the crop that took root after Pesach, that's called Chadash, it's a new crop, you can't eat from that until the next Pesach, until the Omer was brought, and which is the second day of Pesach. And he made an enactment regarding those laws as well. So here he makes an enactment, B'Shachar Beit HaMikdash, Rabbi Yochanan token b'chol makom sheyesh bo bezdin. He instituted that anywhere there's a bezdin, you go ahead and you could blow the shofar on Shabbat. Now, when he says anywhere there is a beit din, what kind of beit din does he refer to? From Rashi, it would seem a court of 23. Not just a court, there are different sizes of courts. The minimum size court is a 3-judge court, and that court could judge money matters and not judge capital punishment. Capital punishment, you need a minimum of 23 judges. It's a much higher level court. So from Rashi, it seems that his institution was any place there was a court, you could go ahead and a court of 23, you could go ahead and we'll call that a Sanhedrin Ketana, a mini Sanhedrin. You could go ahead and blow the shofar. Now, obviously, you could say that the logic would be that if you're under the supervision of a court, they will make sure that everything will be done right on the Shabbat. That's how we could suggest the reason would be. Comes Rabbi Eliezer, Rabbi Loza. Rabbi Loza, Rabbi Loza says, he argues on this first opinion of the Mishnah. First opinion of the Mishnah says, it's called the Tanakama, that you can go ahead and blow anywhere there's a court on Shabbat, post the destruction of the Beit HaMikdash. When there's a Beit HaMikdash, only specifically in the Mikdash. But now that we have a destruction of Beit HaMikdash, so wherever there was a court, you can go ahead and blow the shofar. Comes Amar Rabbi Elazar, lo hitkin Rabbi Yochanan Masaki al biyavta bavad. Rabbi Elazar says no, he disagrees. The institution of blowing the shofar on Shabbat was only in Yavneh. In Yavneh. Now, what does it mean Yavneh? Yavneh, when the Beit Hamikdash was destroyed, during the time of the destruction of the second Beit HaMikdash, the Sanhedrin went into exile. They left the Mikdash, and they went to a town, a city called Yavneh. So comes Rabbi Elazar, and he says the allowance is only a place like in Yavneh, where's the Sanhedrin Gedolah, which the great Sanhedrin of 71 rabbis are. It doesn't mean specifically Yavneh. Any place that the Sanhedrin would go into exile, that would be the place where you could go ahead and do the blowing of the shofar. But not, even if you have a Beis Din of 23, you cannot go ahead and blow, and certainly not in a Beis Din of court of 3. So that is the opinion of Rabbi Elazar. It's very limited, this allowance, only to a Sanhedrin of Gedolah. Now, V'od zot hoti Yerushalayim al Yavneh. The Mishnah says, one second, Amrlo, the rabbi said to him, to Rabbi Elazar, you're making a mistake. We disagree. Echad Yavneh ve'echad kol mokom sheish bo beis. It's not just Yavneh that you can blow. Anywhere there's a court, according to Rashi of 23, that seems to be the implication of Rashi, the inference of Rashi, that then you would go ahead and blow. But it's not just Yavneh. The Gemara is going to discuss, it seems like there's 3 opinions of the Mishnah, but they seem to be only saying 2 things. Because this Amru Lo, they said to him, seems to be saying the same thing that the Tanakama, the first opinion of the Mishnah, is any place there's a court. And here, this opinion of the Mishnah says, Amrulo, both Yavneh, any place in the court. So how is this statement saying, what do you say? Any different than the first opinion in the Mishnah? That's what the Gemara is going to deal with later. Stay tuned. V'od zot, hoita Yerushalayim mitera Yavneh. And the Gemara says there was another thing that Yerushalayim had over Yavneh. What did Yerushalayim had over Yavneh? Shekol ir, shehi. Now the Gemara is also going to discuss, if you say v'od zos, and also another thing Yerushalayim had over Yavneh. So this seems to be telling us there's not only one thing that Yerushalayim has over Yavneh, there's a second thing that Yerushalayim has over Yavneh. And we'll have to see what is this thing, that's the first thing that Yerushalayim has over Yavneh. But that will have to stay tuned for the Gemara. Say it again. So according to the Mishnah, there was a machloket. If the court will blow, if a court of 23 would blow the shofar on Shabbat of Rosh Hashana when the Beit HaMikdash is destroyed. Now that when the Beit HaMikdash is around, the time that the Beit HaMikdash is around, the Mishnah said on Shabbat, the only place you blow is in the Mikdash. Morning Adam. And the question would be, what does the Mikdash mean? Does Mikdash mean in the place of the Holy Temple? Or is it Mikdash mean throughout Jerusalem as well? That's a question. Jerusalem, Yerushalayim. Now, so the Gemara says, "V'od zot hoyti Yerushalayim b'teir al Yavne." We are on 29b2. Thank you very much. 29b2. Also, Yerushalayim b'teir al Yavne. There's another thing that Yerushalayim had over Yavne. Shekol ir, any city, shehi ro'ah, any city that sees Yerushalayim, vishomat, and hears the shofar being blown in Yerushalayim, ukrova, it's close. V'yochel lavo, you're able to come to Yerushalayim, tokin b'Shabbat. So if we have a city that sees, able to see Yerushalayim, it hears the voice of the shofar that they're blowing in Yerushalayim, and it's close enough that you could actually travel to Yerushalayim on Shabbat. It wasn't outside too far away, outside the boundaries. Tokin, you could blow in that place, because that's considered, we give it the same status of Yerushalayim. So again, any city that sees Yerushalayim and also close enough to Yerushalayim that you could, and a city that could, and it could hear the Tekiyot on Shabbat. Now, and they're able to travel there. They could blow also on Rosh Hashana on Shabbat. It has the same story. It has the same story of Yerushalayim itself. Say it again. What? The walk, right? Now, but Yavne lo hayatokin ela bebezdin bavad. Yavne, they only blew in the court. They did not blow if it was Shabbat, and it's Rosh Hashana, and we're talking about Shabbat, Rosh Hashana. So in Yavne, when the Beit HaMikdash was destroyed and they relocated to the city of Yavne, so the Mishnah says over there, where they had the court to 71, then they would go ahead and blow in Yavne. But if you live nearby, that you could walk to Yavne and you could go ahead and hear the shofar and hear the sound, that doesn't give you the status of Yavne. You have to actually be in Yavne. But when it came to Yerushalayim, you don't have to be in Yerushalayim. You could just go ahead and be near Yerushalayim. That you could hear the sound of the shofar in Yerushalayim from where you are. That's good enough. That will be that will be just like Yerushalayim, and that will give you the right to go ahead and blow over there. Now, any town that met all, the Meiri says it has to meet all these conditions, was viewed as being part of Yerushalayim. Meaning, it's not enough that if you could walk there, but if you couldn't hear the shofar, that's not good enough. Or you could see Yerushalayim, but you can't hear the shofar. You have to go ahead, a town that had the ability to see Jerusalem, hear the shofar from where they are, close enough that could come. If you have all these conditions are met, then you are considered like the status of Jerusalem. Now, the question is, this case of the Mishnah that says that Yerushalayim has special, and its environs nearby, they would have the status of Yerushalayim. And you could blow in Yerushalayim, even though the court wasn't there. What? Because it says Yavneh, it's only blowing in the Bezdin. Now, the question is, what time period is this Mishnah saying? This statement of the Mishnah. Again, the Mishnah opened up. When Yom Tov comes out on Shabbat, when the Beit HaMikdash was standing, what did we do? We blew the shofar on Shabbat specifically in the Mikdash, in the Beit HaMikdash. Some interpret Mikdash means that it includes Yerushalayim. Some say only the Mikdash. So when the Beit HaMikdash was around, it was limited to the Mikdash. Then the Mishnah stated, Rabbi Yochanan instituted, according to the first opinion of the Mishnah, that when the Mikdash was destroyed, you could do it anywhere there is a Bezdin. Anywhere there's a court. Anywhere there's a court of 23, according to Rashi, you could go ahead and Jerusalem, outside Jerusalem, anywhere you have a court of 23. In the first opinion, when the Mikdash was standing, no, you don't get this allowance of anywhere there was 23. Anywhere there's a court of 23. No, you have to be in Yerushalayim or the Mikdash, whatever the opinion is. It seems the first opinion in the Mishnah holds that we expanded the allowance when the Beit HaMikdash was destroyed. And however, the other opinion in the Mishnah says, no, the allowance of the Beit HaMikdash was destroyed was only when you have the big Sanhedrin. He didn't allow you anywhere you have 23. You have to have the Sanhedrin Gedolah of 71 rabbis. As you know, there was a special Sanhedrin, the High Court, like they have in Havdil in Washington, the Supreme Court. Our Supreme Court was in Jerusalem by the Beit HaMikdash. That was the Supreme Court, the ultimate Supreme Court. That was called the Sanhedrin Gedolah. There was one of them with 71 judges. The greatest judges of Israel were there. That was their place. And then there were different places had courts of 23 judges. And we said before, 23 gives you allowance to do capital punishment. And to do monetary matters, only 3 judges for monetary. How do you like that system, Adam? That's the system. Obviously, we understand capital punishment is capital punishment. We need 23 minimum to kill somebody. What? So simple. Right? It had to be unanimous? No, it didn't have. No, it doesn't have to be unanimous. No, it's a majority, but I think it could be you need at least more than one. I think 12 to 1 doesn't work. 12 to 11 doesn't work. You got to be more than one. I think at least a minimum, more than one judge. You don't just win by 12 to 11. So the Mishnah states that Jerusalem had another thing over Yavne. We didn't say what the first thing it had over Yavne yet. We'll see, the Gemara will explain. But what would have over Yavne if you could see Jerusalem, if you could hear Jerusalem, if you could come? What time period are we talking about? When the Beit HaMikdash was around, the Beit HaMikdash was destroyed. Now, according to the Rambam, that says that when the Beit HaMikdash was around, you were allowed to blow in Jerusalem. Mikdash means also Jerusalem, so you could interpret this Mishnah that says that Jerusalem had another thing. Not only Jerusalem is included Jerusalem, outside Jerusalem that met all those conditions that were so close and you can hear it, it's just like Jerusalem. But Rashi says that Jerusalem, when the Beit HaMikdash was around, Jerusalem did not have any special status, only the Mikdash. So you can interpret the second statement of the Mishnah, when the Beit HaMikdash was destroyed. When the Beit HaMikdash was destroyed, then you went ahead and you could go ahead and blow in Yerushalayim, and also not only Yerushalayim, also anywhere that's close enough to Jerusalem. That's how you could possibly learn the Mishnah. That when they expanded, they made an allowance when the Jerusalem was destroyed. They said you could blow in Yerushalayim, and not only Yerushalayim, we add anything close enough to Yerushalayim. Well, Rashi does not learn that in our group. Look at the Mishnah, Rashi in the Mishnah. V'od zot Yerushalayim. Rashi says, V'od zot Yerushalayim, Rashi says, V'odah b'vinyonah, when it was still standing, Yitera b'tekiyat Shabbat al-Yavne. When Jerusalem, when Yerushalayim was still standing, it had this advantage over Yavne, that anywhere that's close enough to Yerushalayim, to Jerusalem, has the same status as Jerusalem. But the obvious question is, but what are you saying? But you told me Rashi holds that the only thing that when the Beit HaMikdash was standing, it was the Beit HaMikdash alone was the place that you blew the shofar, not in Jerusalem. So what does this statement mean that when the Beit HaMikdash was standing, you get it right, anything that's close enough to Jerusalem would be able to go ahead and blow the shofar. I thought the only place that you blow the shofar was in Jerusalem, was in the Mikdash. And now we're introducing so Rashi's learning here is talking about it's talking about before the destruction of the temple. So before the destruction of the temple, Rashi's opinion is the place that you blow the shofar on Shabbat is in the Mikdash. So if it's in the Mikdash, how could the Mishnah state that near Jerusalem you also could blow? I thought it was only in the Mikdash. That is the question that they asked on Rashi. I saw there was an answer from the Tosfot Yom Tov that addressed this question. So the Tosfot Yom Tov answers the following: when in Yerushalayim, he wants to say in Yerushalayim and its environs, you would blow as long as when the Bezdin was sitting in the Mikdash. When the Bezdin was sitting in the Mikdash, it seems that the court was open the first 6 hours in the day. The court was in session until 6 or until 6 hours of the day, till 12 o'clock, morning AM hours, whatever. That was the court was open. So in you have to see ad she sha'o, you have to see till 6 hours. So once the court was in session, then in Yerushalayim, when the Bezdin, we're talking about the Sanhedrin was in session. So if the Supreme Court is in session, when they're open, so then in Jerusalem and its environs outside Jerusalem that are close enough to Jerusalem that meet all those conditions, they could blow. Because if the court's in session, we're going to expand the allowance. They're going to say anywhere in Jerusalem could blow. Anywhere near Jerusalem that meets those conditions could also blow. But when the court is not in session, let's say after 6 hours in the day, when the Bezdin is not in session, they do not blow in Jerusalem and its environs, only by the Mikdash itself. So when, let's say in the afternoon, on Shabbat, in the afternoon on Shabbat, right? Generally, we don't do court on Shabbat, but under certain for certain things, the court would meet under certain circumstances. That's how on Shabbat. Generally, like you said, the court should not meet on Shabbat. The court should not be open on Shabbat. But I wonder. We find by David HaMelech that David HaMelech said that his hands got dirty by, when women would have questions if this blood is blood of Nidah or not blood of Nidah. So the woman would come to David HaMelech and he would judge. He might have to get his hands dirty to see if it's blood that's clean or not blood that's clean. Is it or whatever the status is, if it's blood or not real blood or whatever it is. I wonder if the court would be in session to judge halachic questions that would come up on Shabbat. You have a halachic question that comes out of Shabbat. They're not judging, like you're right, Ralph. They're not judging capital cases on Shabbat. They're not doing those. They're not judging monetary cases on Shabbat. What about halachot? Halachic questions. Shabbat, people go to the rabbi. We have questions. Can I do this on Shabbat? Is this thing permitted for me to eat? Can I cook? I can't cook on Shabbat? What do I do in this circumstance? So maybe the court was in session to answer these halacha questions. These are the greatest rabbis. So you have a halacha question. You're saying, okay, so maybe having all the rabbis together, it makes it a much stronger question. There was a blackout. What do we do now? And then the lights went on. What do we do now? You know, I'm making a joke, but so he wants to say that Tosfos Yontif says that when the Bezdin is not, when the court is not in session, then they do not blow only. That's where they blew only in the Mikdash, and outside the Mikdash, they never blew, even in the time when the court was in session in Jerusalem. They would not blow outside Jerusalem. So therefore, based on this shot of the Tosfot Yom Tov, so now we can explain. When the Mishnah says that you would blow any place that's on Shabbat, when Rashi learns when the Beit HaMikdash was still standing, they'll be blowing in places near the environs of Jerusalem, that's talking at a time during the first 6 hours, the 6 hours of the day that the court's in session. Then one that's close to Jerusalem would go ahead, and in Jerusalem itself, and anything close to Jerusalem had a right to blow the shofar. So therefore, this really expands the allowance when it says Mikdash. The Mikdash, according to Rashi, specifically, the Mikdash you can do the whole day. As long as it's daytime during Rosh Hashana, the mitzvah of shofar is daytime, not nighttime. You could blow the shofar anytime by the Mikdash, whether the Mikdash is in session, not in session. However, when the Mikdash was not in session, in the afternoon you can't blow throughout Jerusalem. But in the morning, when the Mikdash is in session, you can blow in Jerusalem and anything nearby. That is how the Tosfos Yom Tov explains. Now, the Ramban, the way he explains the Mishnah, he says in the time of the Mikdash, he wants to say the following: in the time of the Mikdash, Jerusalem they didn't blow. You go ahead and you blow by the Mikdash. If you're in Jerusalem, The old city is not such a big place, by the way. The original old city place not such a big place. So where should you go if the Beit HaMikdash is around? Go to the Beit HaMikdash. Don't go to the. We're not going to allow you in your own your own court in, let's say you have a court somewhere else in Jerusalem. Go to the Mikdash. But the cities that are close to the Mikdash. Now, 1 second. But the cities that were close to Jerusalem, they allowed them to blow. Why? Because the people in Jerusalem could go to the Beit HaMikdash. Let them go to the Beit HaMikdash to hear morning. Let them go to the kiva. They go to the Beit HaMikdash to hear the kiyot. But the cities that are nearby, they didn't want to give them the tircha, the difficulty of leaving their cities and going all the way to the Mikdash. So therefore, they allowed them to blow in their cities on Shabbat, that they didn't have to come to the Beit HaMikdash. That is the explanation of the Ramban. You hear what the Ramban said? The Ramban is saying the Mikdash is standing. He doesn't say about dependent on the 6 hours, the time when Bezin is in court to make an allowance. He says when the Mikdash is standing, and he says when the Mikdash was standing, he did not allow anywhere in Jerusalem to go ahead and blow, but in the Mikdash itself, anytime during the day, not like the Tosfos Yom Tov. But the cities that are near Jerusalem, they gave them allowance to go ahead and blow the shofar on the Shabbat in their cities as long as they're close enough to Jerusalem, because they didn't want to make them that difficulty of traveling, even though they were close, that they could travel. But you're outside Jerusalem. You're not living in Jerusalem. They're nearby. Therefore, they allowed them. But you know what? You're nearby, but you're close enough to Jerusalem. We'll give you that allowance. Meaning, in a certain sense, you could say, Ralph, that the Mikdash, you blew in the Mikdash, according to Rabban, that covers the whole Jerusalem. Because if you're in Jerusalem, you could come to the Mikdash. We don't allow you to blow anywhere in Jerusalem, only in the Mikdash, according to the Ramban. But we're also going to give, but we also want those cities that are close to Jerusalem to also have a certain status like Jerusalem. So what we're going to do is we're going to allow them actually to blow outside Jerusalem, those cities, yes, but not past that, yes. See, come here. We're going to give you like Jerusalem, and therefore you're going to get special status. Now, by the way, it is a big lesson. Good morning. It's a big lesson in life when you stay close to a holy place. You gain on the deal because you're living close enough to Jerusalem that you could go ahead. See, if you're in Jerusalem itself, you go to the Beit HaMikdash. You got the shofar. You're a winner. You're not in Jerusalem, but you're close enough to Jerusalem. You're going to also be a winner. Like we have the end of Sukkah talks about, tov the tzaddik, tov l'shcheno. It's good for the tzaddik and it's good for his neighbor. So if your neighbors of Jerusalem, you live near a holy place. That's what everyone has to make sure to move to nice places, nice Jewish communities. You're near holiness, and therefore you will win. You win on the deal. Now, Tosfos. Now, Tosfos points out if you look at the Tosfos, Umiu Kasha, in the middle of the Tosfot, the first Tosfot, Umiu Kasha, on the right side, right? So Tosfos says, Umiu Kasha, he says. First word of line is Miu. After the destruction of Beit HaMikdash, we became more lenient by shofar than lulav. Because Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai said that you could blow, according to one opinion, anywhere where there is a court of 23, maybe someone will even learn a court of 3. But you could blow the shofar when the Beit on Shabbat, when the Beit HaMikdash was destroyed. You could blow on a court of, and any court is a beis din. Lulav, taking the lulav on Shabbat, right? They did not allow any. It says that you bring the lulav. The time of the Beit HaMikdash, they would bring the lulav. And they would bring the lulav to the Beit HaMikdash, or they would bring the lulav to the shul. Right? They would bring the lulav to the Beit HaKnesset on Shabbat, or they would bring the lulav to the Beit HaMikdash. But it applies, Tosfos says, that when the Beit HaMikdash was destroyed, they did not make that allowance. When the Beit HaMikdash was around, taking the lulav the first day was a mitzvah minat Torah in all places, both in the Mikdash and outside the Mikdash. So therefore, they allowed you to take the lulav on Shabbat to your shul. You live wherever you live. You could bring your lulav before Shabbat because you can't carry a lulav on Shabbat, right? When there's no eruv. So they told you to bring the lulav before Shabbat. But once the Beit HaMikdash was destroyed, it implies they did not allow you to go ahead and bring the lulav before Shabbat. Yet, when it comes to the shofar, we said the Beit HaMikdash is destroyed, we allow you to blow the shofar. You blow the shofar wherever there is a point of opinion in the Mishnah, wherever there's a court. So why are we, when the Beit HaMikdash is destroyed, why are we making more allowances for for the for the shofar? That's how Tosfos is asking. And Tosfos says the shofar is the point of the shofar is when you blow the shofar, it brings the merit that Hashem remembers the binding of Yitzchak and the shofar. That's why it's usually from a ram's horn, and that brings a great merit for the Jewish people to have a good new year. And therefore, they did not want to stop that mitzvah completely. And once they allowed, and therefore, once they allowed, they could do it in one court. They allowed you in any court. That is one approach of Tosfot. That because of the having the shofar, it's a day yom of judgment for the world, and we want to make sure that you have that the merit of Yitzchak comes to Hashem. You'll be zocher. So therefore, they made more allowance when the Beit HaMikdash was destroyed to go ahead and blow that shofar in a place of Bezdin more than lulav. Okay. Want to wish everyone. We'll see everyone hopefully tomorrow. Continue tomorrow with. Hope everybody had an easy fast yesterday. Take care.